Hey everybody, Jazzy here, back with year 14 of Thrill of the Grill, my solo Warly world over on Twitch. Beginning of autumn, I'm still down in the caves finishing up the walls around the Spelunky pods, and I'm exiting with a bang. The sound of the nightmare phase to be exact. Because I am getting chased out of the village by a horde of shadow monkeys because of one missing wall. Normally I don't freak out that much over the monkeys, except we got this one little bugger who is floating around like he's possessed. And instead of trying to bite me, he's still throwing poop at me, which is not something shadow monkeys are supposed to do. It doesn't do any damage, but it does stun me, which is making me unbelievably nervous considering the rest of the monkeys. Has anyone experienced this? A shadow monkey that acts like a normal one? This has to be a bug. Anyways, we avoided them, and then I figured what the hell, I'll chase them back home and finish the job. Anyone who has never been chased out of the ruins by a monkey horde will never appreciate the primal satisfaction of purging the biome of this filth. As soon as I made it back home, I built a forest stalker and threw a shadow atrium into it. I'm actually going to use it a couple times this autumn to farm some resources, so I'm grabbing all of the foliage, all of the glowberries I can get my hands on. One foliage is going to go towards bibinka, the final dish I am going to make for my winter's feast tables at the Oasis. I'm really glad I made a set piece for the event, especially considering I wasn't really equipped to build a proper Hallowed Night set piece when I started the run. The glowberries I'm gonna cook into glowberry mousse. This dish needs 2 total value worth of fruit, and 1 value fruit needs to be glowberry. I have a bunch of bananas from the Great Monkey Silencing, so I'm going to use those up right now. This is a really good dish for Warly, and I want to make sure that I always have a little bit available in my food bundle. Now here's the real reason why I want so much foliage. Check out this recipe for slimy turf at the Terra Firma Tamper. 1 foliage and 1 grass. That is such an incredibly cheap turf to craft, and I can easily mass produce like 40 to 60 turf after a single night of picking foliage at the forest stalker. Do not be surprised when my base fills with slimy turf. I think it looks much better than the natural surface turfs for a lot of builds. If class number 1 of the year is any indication, then it's gonna be a damn fine year. We get an eyeball, a light, and a Krampus sack. Over 700 days to get my first sack. Less than a day later to get my second, and only 200 days later I get my third. RNG works in mysterious ways. This is partially why I don't like to open loot on the spot, because now I need to make a separate trip all the way back to the mosaic to pick up this extra sack. I mean, I guess I shouldn't be complaining. But this was a bittersweet victory because it will be the final Claus fight in Winter's Feast. From here on out, it's winter for Claus. I'm gonna miss paddling Santa in spring with goat jelly, but I'm absolutely looking forward to collecting more wax paper for bundling wraps. Besides, as long as you craft an event-specific item at least once, you retain the recipe when the event ends. So we can still make gift wrap, and I do plan to use them for storing items. But the end of the event means we have about 22 Winter's Feast item chests to open. I've been saving them up all winter, so I'm glad to be finally rid of them. We got all of 1 elegant. Increased drop rate, you say? Maybe I blew the rest of my luck on that third Krampus sack. Well, spools are spools. Anyways, I got a new project in mind for this season, and it's going to be mainly for purposes of experimentation. I want to make a little Catcoon zone, and see if these guys can kill butterflies and automatically farm butter for me. Butter is really nice for Warly because it can be used to make fresh fruit crepes, one of the absolute best dishes you can make. It's not quite as good as moqueca, but it's close. So I'm going to just fill up a small area with flowers and then wall it off. Then just see what the cats can do for us. I love being able to build walls right on the edge of land. It used to be pretty awkward making a pen that wasn't landlocked because you had to use statues to block off the gaps near water. This just looks so much better. Now all that's left is to befriend a couple cats and lead them into the pen. You can gift Catcoons a number of toys, and they'll follow you around for a little bit and maybe hack some gift back at you. Interesting trivia. In a lights out world, Catcoons are the only way of obtaining a live bird, at least the first bird. It was fairly straightforward getting them into a pen, and so far they don't seem to mind being so far away from their den. But here's a bummer. They kill light bugs. I resisted the urge to punish them. and I guess I just need to pray that not too many bugs find their way into this part of the base. Worst case scenario, I may need to go catch more bugs in the grotto. They seem to be slowly thinning out around my base anyway. I'm decorating the pen with some birch nut trees and glass castles from antlion. Eventually I want to put a few waxed giant crops in here as well, just to give the build an autumn theme. I'm also spending some time decorating the area around the Bunnymen farm, starting with some slimy turf. I am officially addicted to slimy turf. It goes perfectly with the look of rabbit hutches. I'm also adding some berry bushes nearby. The area is not going to be symmetrical, but hopefully it will flow a little better with the surrounding builds. I'm also throwing some pumpkins into the Catcoon pen, and actually it complements the color of the thulecite walls beautifully. So I'm pretty happy with this build. Okay, next project I want to focus on is this plot right here, which I want to turn into a lunar-themed telelocator zone. First thing we need is some more moon crater turf from the lunar island. Winter might have not been the best time to work on this. Pangolins have a bad tendency of flopping out of the water and just immediately attacking you. I still get jump scared by regular pangolins, but this is just a horror show. Back on the mainland, we get our very first non-Winter's Feast class in over a month. The loot is a shroom skin and blessed wax paper. And the turf is all down for the teleportation zone. Now, I'm going to add a few scaled furnaces and moondials, and then I'm going to plant a handful of stone fruits at the bottom. When you plant sprouts, they do not require any fertilization, and basically act as non-transplanted bushes that spawn on the lunar island. I'm also throwing up some glass castles on the rug. Honestly, they feel like they were made for lunar-themed builds. And for the top section, I'm going to plant a few loon trees. Again, perspective in mind. Tall builds in the back, shorter builds in front. It's not a draconian rule, but when I move tall structures forward, I just need to be aware of the space behind them that's getting blocked. Hey, check this out. The Catcoons are finally trying to get back to their den. I think they do this when it rains, which makes sense if they hate getting wet. I'm curious how long this will last, and I hope that this doesn't mean they're gonna eventually glitch through the walls. Maybe that's unavoidable, but we'll see. Day 950, I'm giving Bee Queen a go. Now this time I'm experimenting with the double bone armor combo. It was kinda helpful in the first phase when I'm doing a lot of tanking, but it's still tricky juggling that item switching on top of all the other item switching going on during this fight. And once I start blowing the pan flute, it really doesn't make a difference because I'm not really tanking at this point. If I were trying Overtime's method that involved a lot more tanking, then it might save me some armor, but for the near future, I probably won't be using this method. Okay, time for the big spring project. I want a reliable method for harvesting fish to use for moquecas, and I think the answer is going to be barnacles. These grow from seaweeds and can be safely harvested at night with a razor. And if you kill a seaweed, you get the starter, which can be planted on any sea stack in the ocean to grow a new seaweed. So I'm going to harvest some seaweeds and bring them to a collection of sea stacks that's much closer to my base. You can sunlock one seaweed, but during the day, other seaweeds nearby will see you and start attacking. So I'm harvesting a few at night, and then spending the day fishing and moving the boat into position for the next round of harvesting. Barnacles should be cooked up as soon as possible. They last more than twice as long as raw barnacles, and they don't cost you sanity to eat. I was not totally sure of the seaweed aggro range, and I had this relatively isolated seaweed that I wanted to harvest. So I went for it in broad daylight against my better judgment. You see that other seaweed turning to look at me? I cannot describe how my heart dropped in that moment. I thought I was sunk. Pun intended. But blessedly, their aggro range is much further than their attack range, and the projectile attack can't reach me from that far away. It was still nerve-wracking, and anyone who remembers Wirt's fateful first encounter with the smoldering seaweed will understand my PTSD. Day 959, I'm planting new seaweeds at a group of sea stacks right next to Pearl's Island. It's relatively close to base, and there's a lot of sea stacks nearby. Eventually, I want to make a collection of boats connecting all of the seaweeds together so that I can shave them all in a single night. I just need to keep lots of boat patches nearby. So at this point, I really want to streamline the production of moqueca. It's such a good dish, and I finally have all the farms in place to easily cook up large batches at a time. So what I'm gonna do is make a bundle dedicated to all the ingredients required to cook a full stack of moqueca. So in here, we will put a stack of tomatoes, a stack of onions, and 2 stacks of barnacles. For the filler, I can quickly grab a stack of honey, eggs, or cooked birch nuts. Now, even though I use bundles, the food does spoil a bit every time I unbundle, and that can eventually add up, especially with a dish that stacks up to 40. And I'm going to store the ingredients separately because they last way longer than the actual dish, and this will just help to maximize freshness until I'm absolutely ready to cook. I'm putting down some leafy berry bushes at the lunar build, also planting a few grass tufts behind it, just trying to give it a unique look and make it feel a bit more overgrown, like the lunar turf is mutating the berry bushes into some lunar variant. Might look nice with the lunar saplings too, but I need to get more of those first. Hooray, giant onion and tomato. Into the moqueca bundle with ye. It's too bad the two don't really synergize on nutrients, but onions are so much easier to grow now that we got growth formula. Summer is here, and I want to stay upstairs and build a little bit, so I'm gonna kill antlion. Badly timed for glass castle harvesting, but we still got plenty. I don't see us running out before next year. But now that I've made the surface safe, I actually want to pop my head back down into the caves and grab a bit of mutated fungal turf from the Lunar Grotto. I might have benefited from grabbing a bit of turf before unlocking the archives, because now the place is littered with nightmare creatures. Next time I do this, I definitely need to bring a bone helm. It doesn't aggro greater gestalts, but it does pacify nightmare creatures. And now that the grass is growing around the bushes, I think I want to move the whole setup down a few ticks. I'm also thinking this zone might work really well with mutated fungal turf. Anyways, I'm rewarded for my revision with a Willow Guest of Honor skin. That is a really nice drop. I haven't had an in-game elegant drop in months. Somewhat makes up for the lack of luck in those Winter's Feast chests. I'm pretty happy with this zone. I love spending an entire season on just making one build look as good as possible. Functionally, a telelocator focus just needs a single tile of turf to exist, but why not take that small function and give it a dedicated area that we can be proud of? Next year, Thrill of the Grill is going to hit a big milestone, 1,000 days. We're going to set up some boats around our seaweeds, we're going to evict the Volt Goats from our desert and give them some more lush accommodations, but we are also going to set up a loot world so that we can get serious about harvesting berry bushes and beehives and expand our building potential for the next 1,000 days. I hope you're enjoying these recaps, and maybe we'll catch you next time live over on Twitch. Take care.